AdLib is the DSP-agnostic buying platform to scale your programmatic campaigns smarter, faster, and more profitably. AdLib helps independent agencies and marketers deliver premium programmatic performance without the complexity, cost, or overhead of traditional DSPs. Their platform provides the tools, data, and automation to run enterprise-quality campaigns, from CTV and audio to geofencing and YouTube, all under one roof with zero trafficking headaches. Plus, they're not just a platform, they're your growth partner. The AdLib team helps you win new business, expand budgets, and deliver measurable ROI that keeps clients coming back. It's time to unlock programmatic. Join leading marketers worldwide who are using AdLib to deliver more campaigns with better results. Check out getadlib.com.
Welcome to Open Market, a podcast about building companies in the advertising industry. I'm Joe Zappa. I'm joined by Eric Franchi and U of Digital's Chief Growth Officer, Myles Younger, one of the only men in adtech who creates more content than I do.
Oh,
how's it going, Myles?
Very, very good. Thank you guys for having me on.
Why are you so hungry for the affirmation of the digital masses who hurt you?
They don't hurt. Did they hurt you, Joe? They don't hurt me.
They hurt me a long time ago. That's how I got here.
No, we're just already going to veer straight off into meta discussion about ad tech marketing. The writing for me it's a compulsion. Like it really, I am compelled to write about things. Like I always have. Joe, I imagine you've been writing for a long time. And so it's one of those things that, they couldn't pay me to stop, basically.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what you're really talking about is like the inveterate love of the game. Inveterate means inherent, Eric. Just don't worry about it. But so he put the glasses on, but I'm not buying that shit. Some of us were born nerdy, Eric. Some of us have always been this way. No, I always had to write. It's true. I wrote since I was like a kid, and then like all through college, I wrote for free, and then like now I get paid to do it. But yeah, you couldn't stop me. It's like the one part of my job I would do if I wasn't getting paid. The clients, I'm sorry if you're listening, but client relationship management, that I need to get paid for. But just creating great content, I like to think I would do that otherwise.
Well, I am flattered that you elevated me to this like whatever higher plane of whatever ad tech creators.
That's good. Ad tech creators. Well, tell the people, what does U of Digital do if they're not familiar?
Yes, gladly. So U of Digital is a training partner for the digital advertising, marketing, and media industry. So we train teams across the industry, companies like Nielsen and Yahoo and Diageo and Discover. Lots of blue chip brands trust us to basically keep their teams as smart as possible with respect to the industry. So we train both the sell side of the industry. So these are people selling, advertising, media, ad tech, martech, et cetera. We also train the buy side of the industry. So these would be marketers, folks at agencies, and they have differing needs. But in general, we're teaching people about major, industry trends. A couple of years ago, that was like privacy, death of the cookie. Today, it's very much centered around AI. We train people how technology works. All three of us are familiar with ad tech, and like a million things always need to be explained in that industry. We train people on, competitive landscapes and vendor landscapes. So if, you're a seller and you need to learn about your competitors, or if you're a buyer and you want to learn about a particular peer set among vendors, we can train you on things like that. And then the last major kind of area we train in is like mind of the blank. So if you're a seller and you want to be able to talk to the CTO, we'll find a CTO and come, teach a workshop, and you can kind of ask them all your dumb questions. If you're on the buy side and I don't know, you want to get in the side of the mind of your seller who's trying to sell you stuff, pull in a veteran seller and they'll kind of give you some, candid behind the scenes intel on how sellers think. So yeah, we exist to make the industry smarter. Been at it since 2018, still going strong, and the industry never stops moving. And so we never run out of work.
Those are some really good logos. Can you say those again?
Yes. Who did I list off? I listed off Nielsen,
Discovery, Nielsen,
Yahoo,
Diageo.
Discover, Diageo.
Diageo. I don't even know what Diageo is. It sounds like a gelato brand.
They're the world's most famous gelato brand. No, they're a beverage company.
Okay, I wasn't that far off.
Yeah,
don't look at me like that, Eric. It's basically the same.
It's basically the same.
These are some great logos. We got to get a partnership referral agreement in place. I'm gonna hit up Shiv after this and be like, dude, share the wealth.
No, we do. We have great logos. I mean, our client profile is, I don't particularly how to characterize it, but we definitely exist for the enterprise segment. So I don't know if that's Fortune 1000, Fortune 5000, but these are very much like medium to large enterprises that we're training.
For the record, Diageo PLC is a multinational alcohol beverage company headquartered in London, England, operates in nearly 180 countries, and brands are including Guinness, Johnny Walker, and Smirnoff. Its distilleries produce 40% of all Scotch whiskey with over 24 brands. So they're huge.
It's big.
Wow,
it's
nice.
Big. And so
Wait,
Joe,
so
shame on you for not knowing who they were.
Yeah, I know.
seriously.
Well, I'm sorry that I'm just a sober king over here, not indulging in these devilish liquids. Well, let's actually get into that because like I've been doing a lot of enterprise sales recently and like it kind of sucks, like it's hard. So I'm curious, Myles, like when you work with a company like Diageo, how do you tend to get in there and like bring us, because we're talking about B2B marketing and sales today. Yeah, bring us into that process.
That's a really long answer. You guys both know Shiv, so he would have his own like half of that answer. The first thing I'll talk about is just relationships and rapport building. Like we can, I don't know, maybe get into this, but like you have Digital's, I don't know, sales motion, sales channel strategy is very much direct sales based, relationship based. We have great awareness in the industry and it's growing, but we don't have like I don't know what you would call it, assembly line sales process. So it's definitely like very relationship based. It's going to events, it's meeting people, it's building trust, it's adding value, it's getting introductions, it's being smart about, who can we get introduced to, who can introduce us to more people. And then the last thing I'll say, just with respect to enterprise sales, is a lot of it's just sort of knowing how to talk the talk, at least opening the door, just like speaking the language of somebody who is in an enterprise leadership position, building credibility with them. Like that, all of that is, we can characterize it as an art form. It makes me sound like some sort of like master enterprise seller, which I am not. But like you absolutely have to like show up ready to speak to enterprise customers, enterprise buyers in a certain way. Like you building credibility is just like hugely important.
So what's Joe doing wrong?
What are you doing
exactly
wrong, Joe?
it. Like, well, so I'm curious, how many people, when you sell like a huge brand, how many people are you talking to during the sales process generally?
It would vary a lot. I mean, let's just put it at like a dozen-ish.
Okay.
Right? It could be a little
that's
less.
a lot of effing people.
No, it is. It's the classic sort of seesaw trade-off is like the resulting client relationship is very high value, but the amount of work you have to put into it to unlock the first deal is a tremendous amount of work. But once you can kind of get in there, show value, land and expand, those relationships can be hugely lucrative versus a longer tail thing where you're having to win more of them. The dollar value of each deal is lower. There's less opportunity to land and expand, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's just, I've done both. I would consider myself better suited to the enterprise end of things versus like the mid to long tail end of things.
No, I mean, you sound like you're in the conversation I'm having with Eric and my team, or the conversation I'm having with myself as I talk about sort of the sharp ends. And those conversations are very elaborate. There are multiple voices. I've talked to the doctors about the schizophrenia pills and they're not giving them to me. The pros of enterprise selling are great, right? Like I have a couple of relationships like that. And it's like, once you get in, you're exactly right. Like it's stable. They know what they're doing. You have a whole team of people who are collaborating with you. You're in the budget. You gotta kind of like F it up, frankly, to like get out of the budget for the next year, unless they have some sort of like exogenous event that like leads to the churn. But really, really challenging to get it in the door the first time.
The other thing that I'll just like add, since we're sort of, in the ad tech community, as it were, is like, And Joe, I would imagine this comes up for you with Sharp Pen. So like Sharp Pen, you and Sharp Pen create really good content, angles, strategy, and that would, and I'm sorry, I'm speaking hypothetically, I could be completely wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, and then that by itself plays really well in a smaller, more intimate context where just you being super smart is like, oh, great, let's hire Joe. He's super smart. Whereas when you get into these large...
Go on.
I've sent you business, Joe, or at least I've tried to. You're still like my go-to guy.
No, you guys have been very, very kind to us over the years, and I appreciate your largesse.
So U of Digital has the same thing where, especially in the ad tech community, myself, Shiv, U of Digital as a business are regarded as being like, oh, those guys are smart. They should train my team because they're so smart. But when you get into more of an enterprise context, that matters. But what starts to matter more and more is like, are you systematic? Is there accountability? Can you play our politics? Like, can you integrate with our workflows or our systems or our teams? Or like, there's just all these other more systematic elements that start to come into play. And so, I don't know, just to get back to like some of the questions you were asking about sort of like the approach to enterprises, just like, that's one of the things that you have to, Shiv and I are like retraining our brains to start talking more and more to not de-emphasize how smart we are, but don't rest all of our laurels on the like, you should hire us because we're so smart, because somebody's just going to be like, yeah, I don't know, I'm going to hire like Accenture because they can scale across 80 countries. I don't care if they're not the smartest. Like that's not actually my entire problem. It's not all of what I'm trying to solve for.
Yeah, no, it's extremely perceptive, Myles. It's true. Like the historical sell for Sharp Pen was like, I hop on the horn with the CEO and I show them that I get the business very quickly and I understand their place in the industry and I can critique what they're saying now and show them how to articulate it better. And like the best comment I could get in a sales call with the CEO would be like them being like, yes, like that's exactly right. Or like someone will say to me like, oh, like I spend all my time thinking about this, and this is the first time you're talking to me and you articulate it better than I could or whatever. That's the kind of feedback I historically wanted to receive. But you're right. In the enterprise context, it just kind of like doesn't matter. Like you're talking to like, you're like the CEO might think that, but you're like but they're like, well, but then you do have to talk to my marketing manager. And the marketing manager is like, I don't really give a shit. Like, just like, can you work with me? How do you engage? Like, are you going to threaten me or are you going to empower me? You have to make everyone believe you're on their side, which like you usually are, but like they don't always feel that way. And so, yeah, it's a lot of, as you said, it's more political and it's about a different kind of savvy than like analytical ad tech industry savvy.
Let's keep talking sales. So you work with a lot of ad tech companies and, the sell side generally. Like, curious, what's driving growth for a lot of these companies right now? And then like, what are like the channels and, just like things you're particularly bullish on?
So my answer to the former will be a lot, less informed. My answer to the latter. What's driving growth for the former? Honestly, it'd be more of a Shiv question at this point. CTV and commerce media are like, U of Digital is its own sort of proxy signal into the market. Like whatever it is,
right? Which is why I asked.
Yeah. Whatever the training demand is, it sort of tells you where the growth is. And so, two that I would call out in sort of practical terms, where we see lots of ongoing client demand. The latter half of the question, like where I personally see the growth, it's definitely like TV as a whole. I've been bullish on TV for a long time. I have lovely old tweets when everybody was like, oh, subscription TV viewing is going to kill ad-supported TV. I was like, bullshit. It is not. I'm sorry. That is not what is going to happen. And that's not what ended up happening. People love television. I'm super bullish on television. I've always said it's like the only ad medium where you pick a room in your house and arrange furniture around the ad medium. It's still the only one. Maybe radios in the 20s would have been a pre-TV ad medium where you actually arrange furniture around it. So I'm super bullish on TV. People love them some TV. I'm also super bullish on the creator economy. That just is like the new source of celebrity, the news source of, I've long likened, say, somebody like a Mr. Beast to, he's like Merv Griffin. Because he's a wonderful TV producer. He produces these hit shows. And we're still in the early days of how those shows get syndicated, distributed, monetized, sponsored, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not even close to the creator economy. I don't know much about it, but like I am super bullish on it. I mean, we have 2 hit movies out right now from fucking YouTubers. So like that tells you something where that's all headed. And the last thing
I just Googled Merv Griffin just so everyone knows. He's the
superstar.
He's the Diageo of dead white entertainment guys.
Yes. It's the Diageo of 70s and 80s game show production.
RIP. That guy was super influential. Stepping on the creator front, we made our first at Imperium investment in a pure play creator economy startup just this week, unannounced. It'll come out at some point. And oh my God, the growth and the desire for, CMOs to like lean in, and also like the just like wild inefficiencies in that market is like, it's crazy. Like the stat keeps coming back, but I think it's fact. The Unilever CMO said he planned on 20xing creator budgets year over year, not 20% growth, 20xing.
I believe it. I mean, these are the tastemakers of modern society, of the modern entertainment landscape. We no longer have sort of the whatever monoculture of the post-war era. Now it's all been atomized out to these million creators. And so if you want to win over the hearts and minds of everyday people, I don't see that you have a great deal of other choice but to integrate
exactly
creator media heavily into your planning. Third is AI is essentially, and that's very much a whatever, that story is being written in real time, but you have a new kid in town intermediating the relationship between a brand and its customers. So it's like, for a long time, it was like newspaper, radio, TV was intermediating that relationship. And then you have things like, massive, retail chains and supermarkets, things like that. Then you have massive walled garden platforms, Meta, Google, Amazon, et cetera. And now I expect we're going to have like a new wave of, well, you're going to have existing platforms that are going to change the way that consumers, whatever, discover brands, products, et cetera. But then I anticipate we'll have like a million new media platforms. Who knows what they'll be, but it's going to involve a lot less like looking at web pages, clicking around apps, all these things that sort of like, ad tech was predicated upon of like, oh my God, there's going to be so many page views. We're going to sell so many ad impressions. We need like a whole real-time bidding infrastructure in the back end to like make a fire hose of ads because people are constantly clicking around on their phones and desktops. And so, so that's the third one I'm like bullish on, but that's obviously like longer term than the first two.
Yeah, it's interesting because for the past few years, the buzzwords of ad tech that I always return to when I want to have a shorthand for what's going on in the industry have been CTV, performance, and AI. So you're kind of adding a fourth there, which is creators, which I think makes a lot of sense because, as you said, they are the ones who are sort of driving media forward. And they intersect with CTV even, right? And that, like, what are people watching on TV? They're increasingly watching, they could be watching Beast Games on Prime Video, or they could be watching like Love Island or whatever.
Well, the last thing I was just going to, point out is going back maybe close to 10 years at this point. I think it's no longer a sleeper thing, but it was like a sleeper statistic for many years. Like YouTube would publish statistics about how many people were watching YouTube on their television. And like very few people picked up on that for years. And like, guys, like you think of YouTube as being something that you're like watching on your phone or watching on your web browser. Like, I'm sorry. No, people are watching it on their couch in the same context that they're watching the major networks, in the same context they're watching Netflix or HBO or all of it. And so it starts to, at least from a consumer's perspective, from a media planner or buyer's perspective, it's a different story. But from a consumer's perspective, it's no longer different stuff. And yeah, I expect AI will come in there where it's like from someone's everyday person's perspective, these aren't necessarily going to be mutually exclusive, entertainment mediums.
YouTube captures over 11% of total US TV viewing time.
Yeah, it's insane. And the stuff that people are watching on TV.
The number one media company on TV.
Yeah. And it's like, I got whatever YouTube pilled late in YouTube's game. Like, this is a couple of years ago. I don't remember why I started watching YouTube regularly, but I just did. And I discovered there was all this like great history programming. I was like, this is like basically public television quality, certainly far better than something that, ended up being on the History Channel or Discover or these sort of cable TV channels that kind of devolved over time in terms of like the quality of the programming. And I was like, wow, this is really high quality stuff. And then on the other end of the spectrum, like my kids watch stuff that's just absolute trash, but they love it and they're glued to it. And so in that respect, it works great.
Nerd.
Yeah, outside of like, no. Outside of like, watching a movie like on Netflix or Prime Video with the family, all of my TV time is YouTube.
Yeah. It's
100%.
excellent stuff. Like it's excellent quality stuff. Like anyway, yeah.
This is actually super fascinating. So what do you guys, Myles is watching history stuff. Eric, what do you watch on YouTube?
I watch the things that I like to watch. Like, it's overused on
Evasive as hell.
Yeah, it's very circumspect.
That's like when your girlfriend is like, what are you
Stop
watching?
it.
And he's like, it's the things I like to watch.
So last week, UFC BJJ was live streamed only on YouTube. So I'm a jiu-jitsu fanatic. UFC launched their own BJJ league. They're streaming it 100% on YouTube live. I tuned in. A lot of the podcasts that I like the more professionally produced ones like Rogan, like they're awesome to just sit and like watch. Some of the kind of like things that I'm into outside of jiu-jitsu, like working out and stuff like that, like ESPN episodes from like the early 90s, they're on YouTube. I mean, cars, like I wasn't trying to be evasive. It's like literally like the things that you like. There is a infinite amount of amazing content on YouTube for that stuff. And I'll watch that all day ahead of like something mindless on like reality television or something like that.
I'm not watching mindless shit, bro. I'm just watching HBO, but some of us are just, cultured like that. Like, I'm just like, I don't like, we're generationally different. Like you're like a millennial. I'm a Gen Xer. Like I'm watching like the Sopranos reruns. You're out here watching freaking 17-minute user generated content. We're not the same, bro.
All right, let's not bounce around too much, but let's bounce around. The first question in the docket I thought was really good, which was, I guess Myles and Joe and maybe all of us, we met on the platform formerly known as adtech Twitter, now maybe known as adtech X. What's going on with adtech X, and is it even a thing anymore? And if not, like, where are people hanging out and talking and bantering and learning from each other?
So I sort of joined adtech Twitter in 2020. It was early 2020. I actually remember I had been on Twitter for a couple of years at that point, but I was completely unknown to virtually everybody. Very few followers, et cetera, et cetera. And then in February of 2020, I published an ad tech friend of mine sent me the Google's turtle dove proposal around third-party cookie deprecation. So that was one of their original specs for like, how do we deprecate third-party cookies while still preserving some ability to target and measure? And I read through it and I was like, this just ain't going to work. Like, I'm reading this and I know more than enough about third-party cookies and cookie-based targeting and decisioning to just realize this ain't going to work. It's too much. And so I published this this 50 tweet rant that anyways, that like got the attention of like Ari and I don't know, other people. Well, a couple people maybe from Google replied, hopefully I didn't hurt their feelings too much at the time, but that was kind of like my entree into ad tech Twitter. And then I was very, very active on it through the pandemic because my wife had twins in April 2020. And so we spent a good deal of the pandemic raising twins. And so I only had 30 seconds to myself at a time. And so Twitter was the only thing I could engage in that compressed of a time frame. And so super duper active, especially after Elon Musk basically was like, I'm a Nazi. I was like, this is a little icky. Like, I'm uncomfortable with this.
He called you a Nazi?
No. He basically was just kind of without explicitly saying it, he was just announced to the world. He did the Heil Hitler salute. It was just he just basically went off the deep end in terms of this weird far right stuff. And so I was like, all right, this is kind of icky that he owns this platform. And so my stupid rubric for myself was I stopped really posting anything on Twitter. Like if you look at my actual, like my timeline on Twitter, you'll see that there's really has been nothing posted for a year or two.
Nothing.
Yeah, but I replied.
Why
to
do
tweets.
I even follow you?
I replied it
Oh, okay.
because you
That's
love
why.
my clever.
because I feel like you're.
my clever
Yeah,
quips
I
and
feel
retorts.
like you're
Yeah.
there, Miles.
I am there.
But I guess that's what it is. Is like honestly, what you reply to is often more important than what you're posting.
I would still post, but like, yeah, most everybody left. Like, there's very few people left, and
Engagement's down super big.
Yeah. And I mean, it was always an echo chamber to begin with, but now it's a tiny echo chamber. And then I have been doing my best to like dedicate more effort to Substack, which feels like where the discourse went. It ain't on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is fun, but discourse, it ain't. Twitter was discourse, but then it just like got kind of toxic and died. And so now I'm doing more on Substack these days. Sorry, very long answer to
You
your
were
question.
posting on Substack and then, having conversations in the comments that you might have had on X.
Not nearly as much volume wise as Twitter,
Sure.
but like it's hard to have those conversations on LinkedIn. I kind of refuse to really engage with Twitter these days because of its owner. And then Substack feels like it's kind of maybe starting to take shape as like a place to have substantive conversations.
Interesting.
Personally, I don't see Substack becoming the same thing. I just view it as a totally different thing. Like for me, Substack is like this place for 2 Miles' point about like what is veritable discourse. Like Substack is this very thoughtful platform, right? Where it's like people like they get off long form takes and it's interesting and moves the conversation forward, yada, yada. But it's what it can't replicate. And I feel like this is what there is no alternative to Twitter really is this like real time, like group discussion forum. Like that is really what Twitter excelled at. And it still does. It's just there isn't enough critical mass in ad tech for it to be as good as it once was. Whereas like other things it still is, right? Like you could still do politics, sports, whatever, movies, but it's not as much in ad tech because we just don't have enough people who are doing it. That said, what I will say is the people who have remained on ad tech Twitter, there are still a lot of really influential people who are on there. So the opportunity has never been greater. If you want to go like I did from having 0 ad tech name ID to getting in front of some really important people, you can do that pretty easily because there just isn't that much competition.
You're 100% right. Mike Walrath, who, built much of the, kind of V1 of the programmatic ecosystem along with Brian O'Kelly at Right Media, he just started posting on X a couple of months ago. And it hit my feed and I was like, oh my God, Mike Walrath is posting these really, really smart posts. Nobody's following him. I was just like, oh my God, everybody follow Mike Walrath.
I always used to enjoy finding random notable people on Twitter with very
no
few
following.
follows. Actually, my favorite anecdote about that was, I don't remember why, but I looked up, well, he's played by Harry Shearer, but the bassist from Spinal Tap, Derek Smalls, is on Twitter. And I mentioned him and I was like, oh my God, Derek Smalls is on Twitter. This is amazing, everybody. And he only has 500 followers. I don't remember what he had, but it was very, very few. Considering, to me, Harry Shearer is like a god, He's on The Simpsons, he's in Spinal Tap.
That's so cool.
And so then he replies and he says, that's because I don't buy him, mate. So anyway, I got Harry Shearer to reply to me as Derek Smalls on Twitter about his low follower count.
That's super cool. You joined Twitter X in 2017.
I want to say
in 2014. Yeah. Take a guess when my join date was.
When was Twitter created? I don't remember. It was like 2007. Yeah.
2007. Yeah.
Wow.
Almost 20 years in that hellhole.
I mean, it's so long ago that the person who told me about Twitter first was my cubicle neighbor in 2007. I was in a cubicle and I had a neighbor on the other. Yeah.
I mean, I effed it up because I didn't start posting regularly on Twitter until 2023. But what your story also partially illustrates, Eric, is that there is a tremendous value to being early to a platform that takes off, because the audience you were able to build, obviously you would still have a big audience because you have a legitimately big influence in the ad tech industry, but it is very hard nowadays, like you were saying about Walraff. Like it's even if you join now and you have real influence in the world, it's hard to build a following on Twitter.
It's really, really hard. Anyway, let's get back into the discussion. There's like 25 people letting me all over this conversation right now. The remnants of adtech X. They're screaming into their AirPods. So talk about AI. Like, how are you getting the industry upskilled on AI at U of Digital?
So U of Digital's been on, its own version of the AI journey along with everyone else. So, it emerged in obviously like late 2022 with like DALL-E, ChatGPT, and it was obvious to us, heading into 2023 of like, all right, this is going to get baked into all of the ad tech platforms for sure. Then we kind of had to wait for that to actually happen because it then took several years for that to actually start to happen. And then it also took several years for, LLMs, generative AI to escape the novelty territory. And so U of Digital's really been seriously leaning into AI training for about a year and a half. We had some trainings that predated that, but we're about a year and a half in. It's been very interesting from our perspective as a trainer. One of the things that we never did in our ad tech training context. So this is training teams on, what's a DSP? What's an SSP? How does Yahoo DSP work versus Amazon DSP? What's the state of identity? Blah, blah, blah. We never got people like hands on keyboard in those trainings. Like it was not like, all right, everybody, open up your Amazon DSP account and let's create some line items. That was not what we did. But with AI, we're discovering that like we have to get people hands on. Like there's no way to teach it purely through words or exposition. You have to like get people hands on. The other thing that we're kind of running into is that we have teams who AI right now, because it's so new and because it's hard to disconnect all of the different elements of AI transformation from one another. So it's like training doesn't just sit in its own little separate universe. Is our clients kind of want to be able to take the, leap, as it were, from training to action more than they would have kind of expected of us in the past. And so, we're working on like some new consulting relationships and trying to form relationships with partners who can help our clients do that. So that's also is another like very, very new thing for us. Another thing that we've run into is the element of, call it inspiration. Like I actually mentioned this in a lot of sales conversations to kind of gauge reactions for the people I'm talking to. And at least half the time, they'll latch onto that word of like inspiring people, because AI has got a bunch of different elements connected to it. One, there's sort of like the blank prompt box problem of like just giving somebody a blank prompt box is a horrible way to kick things off. If you're trying to get people like bought into a new way of working, you can't just give them like a blank box and say, all right, use the box to do your job better. Okay, what does that mean? I'm intimidated. I'm scared. I'm resentful, whatever. So we want to kind of inspire people and spark imagination, spark dialogue with people. And we're just discovering that this is like a very important element of AI training. Again, it's different than our legacy kind of like ad tech training, where inspiring people about ad tech wasn't really a core element of our trainings. And I think a lot of that ties back to the fact that with AI, it's an incredibly democratized technology. Like anyone can use it. Anyone can make agents. Anyone can vibe code very elaborate apps. Like as long as you've got the money to spend on the tokens, like literally anyone can do anything. And so unlike ad tech, which is very much at sort of arm's length from a lot of people, even people in the industry were like, well, I don't have an account to that DSP, so I can't log in and use it. And so therefore it remains in the abstract. AI is just not like that. So anyway, I'm rambling about sort of this evolution that U of Digital is going through as a training and enablement partner to reevaluate and adapt how we deliver trainings and what the purpose of those trainings is to teams as they, as companies undergo AI transformation over the next, 5-ish years, whatever timeline you want to pick out of a hat.
Your title at U of Digital is Chief Growth Officer. I myself have been thinking a lot recently about the role of growth in marketing and sort of the connection between the two. Why Chief Growth Officer and not Chief Marketing Officer?
So U of Digital, much like Sharp Pen, we're a small company. Everybody's wearing like a million hats. So strictly speaking, there are a million different job titles I could potentially have. And the Chief Growth Officer is quasi-arbitrary. Like any job title at U of Digital, aside from Shiv's as CEO and founder, everything else is quasi-arbitrary. So just in terms of a peek behind the curtains as to how U of Digital works and our roles and responsibilities, Shiv is very much like still the sales guy. He is head of sales at U of Digital. He's a great sales guy. I mean, you guys know him. He's a really good sales guy. I mean, I think it's interesting that you call out, like, say, Chief Growth Officer or the relationship between growth and marketing, because I do look after marketing at U of Digital. I look after sort of our partnership strategy. The way that I look at my role is I want to be consistently adding new ways for U of Digital to grow. You could call that channels, but it's not just channels. It's basically helping U of Digital grow. I imagine Sharp Pen goes through its own version of this. You started the business solo, Joe. You're the seller. You deliver the product. You're the relationship guy. You're building trust. You're doing all the things. And as a bootstrapped, profitable business grows, you have to start to sort of disentangle some of those things and create specialized functions within the business that can flourish on their own and sort of, cohere into some kind of a flywheel so that it's not just you. And so with U of Digital, we last year launched our AI Accelerator drop-in bootcamp. So that was the first U of Digital workshop training that you could walk up and buy with a credit card. You could never do that before. You had to talk to Shiv. You had to go through a process of signing a contract, SOW, that was going to be a long-term engagement that was going to last at least multiple months, if not like a full year. So that's like a new way for us to grow. It's a new way for us to engage with learners. It becomes kind of a lead funnel for us. It's a great way to kick the tires on U of Digital without having to kind of go through this whole sales process and sign this, big contract and then sort of not cross your fingers. But there is an element of that of well, how can I try before I buy? So we have that now. We are now working with the ANA to deliver trainings to ANA members. So AI boot camps, these are going to be monthly recurring workshops for ANA members. So if you are an ANA member listening, go look us up on the ANA website, and I think you can probably take our training for free. So that's going to be another really, really big step forward in terms of how we can grow. TBD on where we take that relationship with the ANA. I know it's going to go wonderfully, but that's a lot of what I think about is adding new elements to U of Digital's toolkit for how we can engage with customers, with prospects, with the market at large in these kind of repeatable, systematic ways that take us out of just kind of pure direct sales.
I mean, I think the real answer in your case is different from what I was thinking, in that you're Chief Growth Officer because marketing is not the entirety of what you do. Of course, you do a lot of content and insights and whatever, but you're also broadly tasked with understanding how you can grow the business, which may include other things. I've been thinking a lot recently about the relation between growth and marketing, because I think when a lot of companies in tech say growth, they actually do just mean marketing.
Sure.
But they think marketing is a dirty word and growth is not. And so they call it growth, right? But I think marketing and growth, to me, growth, it can mean more than marketing, but it can also be a subset of marketing, i.e. growth marketing, where you have the comms and content marketing stuff. And then growth is, okay, if we figure out what we want to say, which is messaging and positioning, and we are creating a bunch of content, LinkedIn, blog posts, newsletters, etc., and we're getting press, we're getting earned media, how do we take all of that, figure out whom we're reaching, scale it, boost it via paid, track who's coming to the site, etc.? And that's a whole other part of the universe that we're increasingly doing. that just allows us to connect the dots from the top to the bottom of the funnel. But that growth can mean a lot of different things.
One of the ways to connect sort of, at least the way that my current role at U of Digital has taken shape, and this is like the third or fourth role I've had at U of Digital. Like I've had a few different roles since I've been there. It's like every year and a half, I shift to a new role. Is marketing sort of presupposes that you have like a systematic onboarding, whatever, that you're feeding people into. And so I'm sort of managing two things simultaneously. One, it's the marketing, but let's make sure that we have a nice, diverse portfolio of things that we can push people to. It's basically graduating away from like picking up a call and having the first touch point always be a sales call. Like you have to build essentially, call it infrastructure, systems, functions within the business that can fill that gap. If you don't want the first touch point to always be a sales call, well, you have to build whatever that's going to. It can't just be marketing. It just be like blog posts and stuff like that. You have to be channeling people towards something that results in whatever, a commercial transaction or a meeting or something like that.
You have a lot of takes, Myles. I'd like to challenge you. If that's
Please.
okay. Play a little lightning round. So I'm going to just go this or that. You tell us, and feel free to elaborate or not. We're just going to keep it moving. Ready?
Am I? Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah.
He's not ready, but he's going anyway.
I'm going to do
Unleash
this
the
anyway.
takes.
Oh, God.
Claude or chat?
I can chat with
Yeah,
Claude.
Claude or
can I?
ChatGPT.
Oh.
Come on.
I am a ChatGPT.
Oh my God. Did you enter the AI bubble discourse yesterday, sir?
What? I didn't know that we were
You're not
now
even calling it chat. You're calling
no,
it
I'm not.
Chat GPT.
Okay, I am learning this right now, but I'm a ChatGPT guy. I'm a ChatGPT guy. And it's not a dogmatic ChatGPT thing. I just that's what I use the most.
DSP or SSP?
Well, I was just hanging out with my friend here in Portland, Michael Richardson, at Index Exchange last night. So I got to say SSP. He was
Shout out to
schooling me on
Index.
some really interesting stuff.
Terrible answer. Unless you're listening and you're the CEO of an SSP, great answer. But generally speaking, terrible answer.
Index is doing some awesome forward-leaning
No,
work.
Index is great. Please work
Michael,
with me.
Michael
but-
gets the
but
last touch
DSPs,
attribution there.
YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels?
YouTube Shorts, because I'm not on Instagram.
That's
SF
crazy.
or New York?
You can watch your BJJ videos there, Eric, but I'm on IG.
Wait, Eric, what was
SF or New York?
Oh man, New York, it kind of pains me. I was actually just in San Francisco last week. It was lovely. I am from San Francisco. I spent 30 years of my life living in San Francisco, but I very much enjoy traveling to New York these days.
All right. I think that's a good place to call it. But before we do, it's been a big couple of weeks for Open Market. This pod, it's been a labor of love for Joe and me. We've got a producer, we've got an intern, and they're starting to crank out more stuff. So you can not only listen to this on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts. And by the way, please subscribe and but you can watch this on YouTube. Myles and my platform of choice. You can watch this bad boy on YouTube. So please subscribe to us on YouTube. We're trying hard to grow this thing and get great guests like Myles on. And if you made it to the end, drop a snake emoji in the comments on YouTube, kids.
Whoa, that's crazy. All right. Also, follow Open Market Podcast on LinkedIn and Open Market Pod on X. Yeah, we're still there. Yo, so anyway, talking about IG, I saw in BJJ, I saw this video where this guy was the video was called when you're an expert in BJJ or whatever. And he's trying to get into his car. And then someone comes up to him and is trying to mug him. And he's like, I've been waiting for this. And he gets down on the ground and he's on the ground like this. And he's like, come get me. Come get me. Just a freaking a roly-poly that fell on its back. It's what Eric's going to look like in 30 years when I pick him up from the nursing home to come do an episode of Open Market. I'm going to be like, Eric, I'm not done harvesting your fucking market value, bro. You can't retire. You told me you never want to retire. You're not going to quit on me. Let's go. Let's pick up Myles. We're going to record a pod.
There are many variations of that video, by the way. The one in question I think I've seen, I think the would-be robber is just what the hell is this? And actually runs away so he doesn't get robbed, right?
Perfect.
I get that. That's freaking scary. You see that. You're not
you're not messing with that guy. You're like, he's on some products, some mushrooms and other products we're not going to name because that's not FTC friendly. Diageo would not support that. Diageo would not make that, by the way. They don't make any of that.
All right, editor Mike, you can figure this one out. Myles, thank you so much. You're awesome. We got to have you back on. And in the meantime, thank you for listening, everybody. We will see you next week.